Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I am Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means I've worn a lot of different hats in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. Red Alert Diaries is based on the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert. Is He the One? The Pocket Guide to Finding the Love of Your Life. Now, if you read my book, you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my two sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I took the time I needed to get to know me better, which opened me up to new love again. So now I'm in a new marriage to the love of my life and my best friend, which just proves there is life after divorce. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk: marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. I want you to join me on the journey. So, today, we're going to have a quick conversation about finances because sometimes when we get to different levels and stages in our lives, how we have is what I call your internal financial thermometer set will dictate how you function with your money. Some of us aren't fully aware about how that looks because we've never really taken the time to assess. You see, your financial thermometer was set somewhere in your childhood, how your parents handled money, how you witnessed things in the world about money. Whatever that was in your life, you had an internal financial thermometer set. So let me tell you a little bit about mine. You see, my grandmother was the one that raised me, and she was an individual that could figure out how to stretch a dollar. Why? Because she had to. You see, she had her internal thermometer set to save. She just knew that if you saved enough money, when there came a time that a rainy day should arrive, then you would get the opportunity to be able to have some maximized moments with those funds. But you see, what I had to learn was that her thermometer wasn't always elements in my thermometer, not always what I needed, not always what would be a great support system for me. And so I went through a phase where I had to discover that getting through that element was something that I had to figure out on my own. You see, when I got my original, my term of making money, when I got there, I finally discovered that the amount of income that I had was a lot more than the income that she had ever lived on. So, yes, I needed to have her set thermometer of savings, but I also had to change my internal thermometer setting to one that would be supportive of where I was and what I was bringing to the table. You see, when I realized that the income stream that I had at that time in my life was something that I could do a little bit different than my grandmother, because my grandmother never had enough money to truly do grand investments. Now, at that time, I didn't have a lot of money to do grand investments either, but what I did have to learn is that the internal thermometer that I had set meant that I needed to take some of the money and instead of just saving it in the bank account like she was teaching me, I had to start saving that inside of investments account that would bring me a financial return to support the change in inflation. Now, with all the stuff that's happening in America, inflation is something that people are dealing with on a regular basis. And so some of those parts with inflation, people are trying to figure out how to get past that point. If you are just starting out, finding financial investments to put your money in as a tool so that you can draw on the funds later is where you need to begin. You see, to do that, I had to change my financial thermometer. I had to get a different adjustment in what my thermometer would look like. So that meant surrounding myself by people, reading more books, gaining more insight. What does the investment world hold? And how could I maximize the use of it? So once I gained that concept, my internal financial thermometer made an adjustment. I was still grounded with my grandmother's savings thought, but I transitioned the savings into an investment thought. With that mindset, I was in position now to expand my portfolio. Now that I had some funds that was available to me, that was giving me a little bit of advantage to deal with inflation. I needed to maximize the use of those funds so that every dollar, like I've told you before, had a job. Yes, part of that money was to start making more money through the investment accounts, but some of that money I could use to actively invest. See, there are two types of investments that I had to discover. There's a passive investment and there's an active investment. I had to learn how to maximize both of those. You see, with my passive investment, that fell right in line with my grandmother's financial thermometer, which was still a piece that was sealed in my soul. The active investments were things that I had to discover. And so, one of the parts that my grandmother had that she gave me as a piece that moved me into my financial foundation was real estate investing. And I've shared with some of you some of the elements of what I've done in the past with real estate investing. And part of that technique with the real estate investing that I knew was what helped clear up that $35,000 worth of debt that I talked about before. There's just one strategy that I used. So I want to share with you some thoughts that you can use to start maximizing or adjusting your internal financial thermometer. Because depending on where it's set, as you get to different financial levels, you may need to make a little more pivots and a little more adjustments. You see, when I finally reached a six-figure income, I just knew hitting that six figures was going to be amazing because my initial financial thermometer said that that was a lot of money. But depending on what you're doing, depending on the lifestyle that you choose to keep, or what you desire to do with those funds, it may or may not be a lot of funds. You see, when I started out on the first rung of that six-figure income, it wasn't as much as I thought it would be, which meant I had to change my financial thermometer. I now needed to use some of that money actively to invest in coaches, to invest in teaching tools and other elements to help me learn how to start really being more active. And then I ran into another thing that I wasn't even aware was a part of my financial thermometer. Y'all, did you realize that your level of risk taking is a part of your financial thermometer? You see, when my grandmother gave me elements of her financial thermometer, it was very low risk. I learned from her that if you have money, you don't do anything to mess it up. You minimize what you do, you minimize where you send it so that you can hold on to it. That level of thinking was supportive at one point because it gave me the chance to start thinking about more of the savings and investment, but it was not supportive when I decided I wanted to start being more active with my investing. You see, the active part of my investing meant I had to make some other adjustments. The active part of my investing meant that I had to change how I would look at money. And I realized that my risk tolerance was sitting right in the middle of my financial thermometer. So I had to determine how was I going to hedge how I felt about the risk that I was taking. Part of assessing and helping you with your risk is having knowledge. As you increase your financial knowledge, you also get the chance to increase how much risk you are willing to take. As I learned more about the different things that I was investing in and that money I was telling y'all earlier that I used to just increase my knowledge, that active element of increasing my insight supported me when different deals started showing up and I started having to change some of my financial trajectory and the financial thoughts that I had going on. It was in those moments that I start discovering that this is how I can make other changes to my financial risk tolerance, which also gave me a different support internally to be able to make certain that things were working out on my behalf. And so for today, I want to give you the thought process to think about your financial risk tolerance. What does your internal financial thermometer have as a setting? Is it on low, where it's sort of cold, where you have minimal or low risk? Is it in the middle, where I eventually learned to be? Because as I eventually learned to get my risk tolerance and my thermometer a little bit higher, it wasn't on hot, y'all. I didn't make it to a place where I was really running out there in the middle of risk. but it was enough to help me be able to make some other adjustments so that my income could switch into different levels of that six-figure factor. And as I got exposed to more and more money, where my factor changed to the mid range of the six figures, I'm thinking of now where I am and what I must do next, because my desire moving forward is to start hitting that seven-figure rung. And as I start positioning myself to move into seven figures, it takes a different mindset. It takes a different view of my financial thermometer. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else I've shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. Assess where you are. Take a look at your financial thermometer. Gauge where it was set, what the setting is. Is it low, like mine was in the beginning? Have you learned enough to start positioning it to move it just a little bit higher, like I have? And do you need to tweak it? Get a little more insight to move it in a higher direction because you've got some different goals in mind. You've got some different dreams in mind. And if you determine that you need some support along the way, feel free to reach out. You can go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. And if you're looking for more support, there are so many different places that you can turn to. I have a few friends of mine and some amazing coaches that I can also give you some information on. And if you are watching this right now in the month of November, we are in the middle of a 30-day living an authentic life challenge. It is in that challenge that we are getting some of the tools that we need so that we can move into the next level of our lives where we are further strengthened to be amazing like we are supposed to be. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.